රාජ්‍ය සේවකයන්ට හිමිවන ජීවන වියදම් දීමනාව රුපියල් 10,000කින් ඉහළට.
In product diversification for 2021-22. Now you need to bring out the best in you. Congratulations. And now we're moving London Brand of the Year. Come on, we remember that these are overall awards. And now globally outraged. Congratulations. We have now the best ever. We can't hear you. Make some noise. You need to bring the roof down, ladies and gentlemen, for the export of the year. MS Active Trading Private Limited to encourage all the SMEs. Showing, come on people, this is the export of the year. Export of the year 22-23. As a nation, this is a very important
so that you have to export that now.
We all went through a time of trouble and time of crisis in the last 2 years. What was the reason? One was the lack of growth and lack of opportunities. Lack of growth meant lack of opportunity. Why was there lack of growth? One reason is our balance of payment. We had never, since 1948, in many years, at least I think for 3-4 decades, the balance of trade was not in our favor. Sri Lanka, since independence, had 4 occasions to remedy this by focusing on exports. Firstly was in the 60s and early 70s when Singapore, countries such as Singapore, Malaysia, South Korea started their export drive. We missed it because we went in for a socialist economy. Second was in the late 80s as we opened up the economy. We missed that because the war intervened and our focus and our resources were in winning the war. The next occasion was after the war when we could have started out. But we focus on non-tradable goods. Coming to the situation we face today. In the meantime, we were overtaken by Singapore, Malaysia, by Indonesia, by Vietnam, by Thailand, amongst others. This is, I think, the last chance. After the last crisis, you can see the number of people, young people have left this country. If there's exodus at this rate and it continues for a decade or so, people will look at Sri Lanka only as the village home to return to, ever planned on returning. Second and the third generation will not come here. We have to turn the country around. As the State Minister Dilum said, this is the challenge which we all face. If you are going to turn this country around, there are 2 issues we have to address economically. Firstly, is the budget deficit, and secondly is the balance of trade. Now these impact on each other immediately, as we mentioned. Once we focus on the budget deficit, it means we have to increase our taxes. Under the agreement with the IMF, and I think it's a good one, we cannot print money and we can't borrow from outside. This is the first budget in which we are not borrowed money. How do we do it? You paid for it. How do you pay for it? We have to increase VAT. As a result, we are criticized by all and it's had its impact. At the moment adverse, but in time to come, it will be beneficial. So this is the way that one reacts on the other. The situation certainly will turn for the better. Now it's easier said than done. We could have done it at a stage in the early 70s or the late 80s when we could easily have dominated the market for investments, for export-oriented industries. Today everyone is in that game. China is the factory of the world. Vietnam is attracting attention next to China. Thailand, Malaysia, you name it. So it's in this background that we do this export drive. There are many areas which we have thought of and you would get to know. But firstly, if you are to get into an export drive, we have to ensure that the medium industries which form a vital part and the small industries which form a vital part of the supply chain are functioning. Many of these industries were affected by the COVID and the economic crisis. Many of them are struggling. Some have already disappeared. This is why in the government has made money available to the small and medium industry. This budget has for the first time made money available for the small and medium industries. Their banks will be told to focus on industries which have been affected by the twin crises and to ensure that those that can be viable are helped first. It's on this condition that the money is available. Because your supply chain cannot be broken. Your supply chain must function. In this background of helping industries, helping your supply chain, there are many measures which we will be taking to promote industry. One, to improve productivity, such as the National Productivity Commission is just one of them. Many other areas in which we would help you. But that is not enough. Improving and increasing the present exports will not suffice for economic development. We have to think of new areas of exports. And to do so, we have to invite investments. In some areas, the export industry will come with foreign investment. It's they who know the market, not us. In other areas, we will be able to find our own export market. Of all the areas that we have identified, and there will be many more that you all will find, I just thought of briefly dealing with one of the areas. Sri Lanka, since we knew in Anuradhapura times, have been an exporter of agricultural goods. Firstly rice, then spices, especially cinnamon of the spices, and then to tea, rubber, coconut. We've been doing this till the time the British left the country. We are no longer major exporter of agricultural goods. This is what we know. But we haven't. We've had the tea, we had the rubber, and we have the coconut. Value added isn't sufficient. But this is a field which we are familiar. Sri Lanka's capital base was built not on trading, but on agriculture. Opening up lands, planting tea, planting rubber, planting coconut. Where Sri Lankans themselves had the economics of scale, running hundreds and hundreds of acres. In 1972, land reform broke this up. As a result, our agricultural exports suffered. Our paddy production was lagging behind. We didn't improve the paddy production. In 1978, when we looked at opening the economy, we were forced to focus only on industries and services, on apparel trade. I remember then Prime Minister of Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, sent Mr. Goke Swem here to report on Sri Lanka, and he said, if we had agricultural plantations you have and the crops that you have, we need not have resorted to the economics which made this island, which made Singapore a major export destination. Otherwise, he is saying, we didn't have your option. Therefore, we had to take this path. So here is an option which we neglected because we thought that we cannot export since land reform constrained us and the lands were vested in the state and the state was not willing to divest themselves of the land. We opened up additional areas for agriculture, which was mainly for paddy, but we could not focus on agricultural development. Many of these were in the north central, eastern and northern province when our focus went into fighting the war, and therefore we abandoned agricultural development in the sectors. Now if you look at the areas that we have in Sri Lanka for exports, the field in which we are very familiar is agriculture. So we thought, let's get back to agriculture. And how do we get back to agriculture? How do we engage in exporting and building up a export agriculture? After all, we are smallholders. No, smallholders can do it, firstly. Smallholders can do it by increasing productivity and going into agrotechnology. So we have to make the finances available for many of you who have 10, 15 acres to get into the new agricultural technology. What you require is not vast extent of land, but a fair extent of capital. That's what we have to make available for those who are interested. Secondly, in regard to local production, we have the agricultural modernization program, which seeks to improve productivity in agriculture, to modernize the village agriculture, the local agriculture, and to increase the output. Now that is a way for those who are planning to have contract farming. We will ensure together with the investors that the farming reaches its maximum productivity. So that is the second stage. To ensure that farmers take an interest, we have about 1.5 to 2 million acres of land, mainly in paddy, which has been given out according to the Land Development Ordinance in permits. We are given land development permits. They possess the land, they can enjoy the land, but they can't own the land. So what are we going to do? The government has decided that we will give all of them freehold grants. This is your land, and develop it further. That's another incentive. As far as the extension services are concerned, both government and private sector will be encouraged to provide the extension services. But we go beyond this. We have to find more land. So firstly, the two large areas of the Mahavali scheme which are not developed due to the war will be taken over for agricultural development. System A, which is close to Trincomalee, which was earmarked for commercial agriculture, and System B. Now this is what is known as the Mahavali Right Bank. That should have about 150,000 hectares, of which part of the land can be used for agriculture. We'll maximize the land that can be used for agriculture. Secondly, we have about 100,000 acres of land under the present plantation corporations owned by the government. We'll give those lands out on long-term leases for development. Then there are 30-odd plantations, estates, which were vested with the Livestock Development Board, which has now been handed to a combination local company and Amul. There will be development in those lands also. Finally, the government will identify other lands also for commercial cultivation. In this, we hope at least 300,000 acres of land can be brought under cultivation in the next few years. It requires capital. This is for large-scale agriculture. What we have done outside that is for small-scale agriculture. This is for large-scale agriculture. So that Sri Lankans with their firms or together as joint ventures can certainly open out these lands, develop these lands and get food crops again for exports. We have always been good at agriculture. There is no reason why we should abandon it, because we can now find the land for you all to be engaged in agriculture. So I thought I'd mention to you this one sector of agriculture which we will be pursuing, and we hope that there will be a number of Sri Lankans who will be more than willing to get engaged in agriculture. So it is a small scale farmer having 10-15 acres and engaging in the modern agriculture. That's the second one. Or you want to be a large scale farmer. We'll also review the performance of the regional plantation companies. We are not satisfied with the performance of some of the companies. Others have done well. And we will, as far as the plantation are concerned, tea and rubber, the pattern of labor will change from plantation labor to contract farming. So that's the other one. And finally, we will certainly restructure and modernize the existing agricultural research institutes to form Agrotechnology University of Sri Lanka. So that will be support the extension services. So this is the plan for agriculture. I thought I'll mention to you. All of us have something to do with agriculture, and I hope many of this in the room, a larger number outside in exports, and even a larger number who are not exporting, will all form the group of new exporters in agricultural products.